Hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of Help Nobody Told Me. I am Jasmine Shapiro with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and I am here with my team member, Jordan Kagan, the Pan of Silver.
Thank you. And we're going to have a nice, exciting episode today. I'd like to thank the Village of Northbrook for allowing Northbrook Police Department Supervisor of Communications, Richard Rash, to be here today. And we're going to talk about safety. The name of our podcast, Help Nobody Told Me. There are so many scams out there, people looking to take advantage of others. The joke always is, I wish they would use their brains for something good to make society better. But I think with technology today, they're getting more and more creative.
You know, they sure are, and thank you for having me today.
You're welcome.
To me, these are essential talks that we have to have. Myself and the rest of the staff at the police department try to reach out to the elderly community all the time, not just the residents, but even specific people that are targeted, because as we were talking about before, we want to target, harden, and educate everybody of what is going on. And that old age thing of the creepy person in the bushes just isn't happening. We have quite the utopia town here of Northbrook, but unfortunately, the biggest thing right now are online and phone scams that are going on, and they're specifically targeting the elderly, and it's tough.
And it's not just here in the Chicagoland area. I mean, for listeners listening all over the country or the world,
Right.
I'm sure they're dealing with the same things.
Very much so. This is a very easy scam for the bad guys and girls that are doing this out there, only because they could be in a totally different country, and it's very hard to prosecute, and that's the caveat to them, so it's tough.
So, I don't know about our listeners out there, it's always amusing to watch one of those like YouTube videos where someone here in the United States has basically reversed hacked into the call centers, trying to take them down, trying to derail them, hoping that they'll stall them from having another victim.
Right, it is very amusing to watch that and stuff, but it's tough because those are the people that are just as professional as the professionals, the bad guys and girls that are calling, right? To the layman person that's sitting at their home doing everything they're supposed to be doing correctly, and all of a sudden the phone call, the email, the text happens, and now all of a sudden they don't know what to do, and they usually think it's legitimate.
So let's talk about those phone calls.
Yeah.
Examples of what is happening here today in 2025.
Sure.
What to be on the lookout for. What are some of the red flags?
So one of the things that is happening day to day and multiple times throughout the day is the fact that as many people are receiving that phone call with somebody acting as their representative from the bank or representative from their credit card, because that usually gives angst to people. That is their account, that is their money.
It's their money, their savings.
Right. Rarely do you get the fraudulent letter. Rarely do you get somebody knocking on the door, even though that is a whole nother scam saying, hey, we're from the ComEd, we need to get in your house and check the meter or something. It is these phone scams, the text scams, and the email scams. And the big red flags in all this is the urgency. No legitimate company, utility company, banking institution, or government entity is going to say you have to fix this right here and now, otherwise there's going to be trouble. The bad guys will say you have to fix this right here and now, and you can pay us by simple ways of gift cards. And like something we always try to explain is, the big red flag in that word is gift. No one should ever be accepting payment as a gift card or, unfortunately, Bitcoin. And as we go through some of our conversation today, I'll explain why Bitcoin is quite hard to get back, only because it is a stock and commodity that can be cashed quite quickly. So
if you have a family member, how do you help the elderly? If you are, let's say, their granddaughter, their daughter, son, how do you help them so they don't fall prey to some of these?
The biggest thing right now is to one, educate them. Just the same thing that we're doing, through the police department and reaching out to these other groups. You have it right there in your family. Is educate them of what are the scams going on right now and to be aware of it. And then two, look at your accounts from time to time. There's several people out there that haven't looked at their account for several months because it's just working. And if it's one of those, if it's working, leave it alone. We can't do that anymore. Look at your credit. There's 3 credit bureaus, and they make it very, very easy to go on there. It's not complicated. We always think of, wow, the internet, it's kind of scary. Where do I go? It's actually quite easy. And you can look at the 3 credit bureaus and see who is using your credit, who's putting that stuff out there. And if you're not getting any kind of loan, you're not purchasing a house, how easy it is to freeze your credit, so no one is actually doing that. And that's where the sons and daughters that are adults now can help out the elderly with that. And then also, lastly, if in fact you believe your parents might not be able to do a lot of that, become a signer on the account. Become that extra person on the credit card. So when something does happen, you don't have to sit there and work with them to do that. You can get right on the phone and help them with that, right then and there, and cure whatever kind of problem that does come up.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
You talked about gift cards.
Yes.
So you have the scammers that are asking for the gift cards. I personally know the power of Facebook. My wife actually found me on a support group on
Nice.
Facebook. We're married, so I know the good. People like to, for really in real life, give for holiday gifts, birthdays, gift cards. I heard this past holiday season was an eye-opening experience. At least that's what it looked like on Facebook.
Yeah.
Did you have more issues this year with people buying gift cards at stores and there being problems?
Well, yes and no. So for the person that wants to provide a gift and gets a gift card, no issues. There have been some problems where the gift cards are already compromised while sitting on the shelf. We have talked to our stores already to say, keep them behind the counter. There's a lot of places out there to trying to educate the people. If you just go up to an aisle and see the gift cards just all laying out there, probably not be the best. But unfortunately, that's how a lot of stores do sell their gift cards. Obviously, if they're pre-scratched for some of the information that the store needs to process it, I wouldn't touch it. But to keep on the topic of what we're talking about, there'll never be a legitimate entity that asks you to pay through gift cards. You should never be paying your ComEd bill through an Amazon gift card. You should never be paying, your Comcast bill with a Home Depot gift card. And the reason behind why the bad girls and guys use these is because it's instant. As soon as you purchase the gift card, and they'll keep you on the phone to keep you occupied, so you can't ask for help from anyone. And as soon as you purchase it and give them the number off the back, the money's gone probably within less than 5 minutes because they have somebody waiting in those particular stores all ready to cash them instantly. And that's where it makes it tough. But for the one person that is purchasing a gift for a gift card, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be perfectly fine going into a store, going behind the, asking the person behind the counter, I'd like a $100 gift card for my son. Beautiful.
As far as seniors identifying a fraudulent email or text message, I know for Berkshire Hathaway, our chief legal counsel always says, do not open something that, check the who the sender is. Click on that so you can see, is it really coming from who you think it's coming from? And we always make all of our clients, even if we're just showing a home, they have to sign a wire fraud agreement. Just letting them know that we presented this to you, that we will never ask you to wire money. If you ever get an email or a text from anybody associated with Berkshire Hathaway, call us first, because we would never do that. And so it's probably a scam.
And it is. And there's the key right there that you just said, that some of the great facts you're providing for the people that come on in is call to make sure this is legitimate. When the phone call, text, well, I should say more so the text and the email comes in, some of the biggest things that we make a mistake of, that, we're in the working world still, and we have to do all this IT training all the time, month to month IT training, because we never want to have ransomware or whatnot. But for the retired community that's at home and everything, they don't get this, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things they should realize, that if you get that email that seems a little suspicious, normally your bank calls you, or when you go into the bank, you have a representative right there you can talk to. If all of a sudden you receive this surprise email, that surprise text, right, is if anything is misspelled, take the time to look at it. There's nothing urgent, even if it says urgent, which is one of the red flags, right? Yeah. hold on, take a breath, and take a look at it. Secondly, if in fact you hover over the sender's information and it does not look legitimate, meaning a lot of misspellings, a very, very long domain, or meaning email
a lot
sender,
of characters,
lot
not
of characters,
letters.
thank you. A lot of characters on that. It is not legitimate. And then the easiest thing to do is read what they're actually asking. There are probably going to be some misspellings or some words that don't even make any sense that usually on an 8th grade level probably would. And then,
usually like the logo is not quite right.
Correct. Exactly. And they always say there's a problem, right? Rarely does a legitimate entity will say there's a problem. They would usually say, can you contact, your local representative or whatnot. And then lastly, the easiest thing to do is you read it all through and you go, this doesn't seem right, but I can't find anything wrong with it. We always say phone a friend, phone a family member. Have that person that doesn't have any stake in the claim, they go, well, let me take a look at it. And then that way, the son, the daughter, or even the friend that went to one of our presentations, right, said, oh, I talked to those officers. I know exactly what to look for. And that's the easiest way. But the big thing, as we talked about, is one, the urgency. If there's anything urgent that says you have to do this today, not legitimate. And then second, look at the sender. Guaranteed, it's probably going to be either misspelled or a lot of characters in there. They're going to revert you to a whole nother website that now all of a sudden when you click on it, they might actually have control over your computer or your phone.
So, as the man of silver, I have had clients that were never married.
Yeah.
They have no kids. Maybe no nieces or nephews in Chicago. They don't have someone close by that really is 100% trustworthy. So if I live in a town I'm really questioning it, do you think most police departments have someone to call before I click that email?
Right.
Or
The great thing that I always like to tell people, and it's one of those that we always say, well, of course they are. We're open 24 hours, 365 days a year, and there's always somebody available for you to talk to and say, can you take a look at this? Believe it or not, if in fact you do fell victim to one of these scams, we always encourage people to make a report. A lot of times they don't. They're embarrassed, right? Or the banking institution that does have money lost on it on your account, or the credit card that does have some fraud on it, sometimes might not make you make a police report. We encourage you to do that. One, we like to see the patterns. Two, we might actually be able to help you recover some of that money. And then three, we might actually have a line on who the offender is and have some traction to go after that person, even though most of the time it's in another country. As my coworker always likes to say when we put on these presentations, it'd be nice if they were in like the Bahamas and they would send us there to go catch them. That usually does not happen. It's usually overseas and in Europe somewhere or something. But the fact remains is you could always contact the police department, always have a representative from the police department, an officer come out to your house and say, let me take a look at it. Let me be a second set of eyes and I will let you know. And then at least one, if there is something wrong with it, you're already making a report and that kind of covers you with the entities that have some money lost so we could try to get that money back.
So I'm going to thank you. So I'm going to run through a long list quickly.
Okay.
So I'm hoping some of these will be on people's front and center mind.
Sure.
How often will the IRS call you, send you an email, or text you that you're about to go to jail? Like I just saw a post, someone got a text, take care of this or the IRS will come and arrest you. And it was A space REST, as you talked about the misspelling. So how often does the IRS do something like phone calls, emails, or texts?
This is an easy answer, Jordan. Never.
Thank you.
They always will correspond, specifically to IRS, they always will correspond with you with, as I always call it, snail mail or just U.S. mail. Once you get, let's just say there is some kind of confusion over a tax document or whatnot, and you have that correspondence, they usually will refer you to get a hold of a brokerage firm that will help you with that, and then you might be able to get a hold of an agent. But when they first start corresponding with you, it'll never be anything but U.S. mail.
How long have you been a police officer?
I did over 30 years while in Highland Park, and now I'm doing community relations for almost 3 years at Northbrook now, reaching out to the people.
And do most police departments have somebody like you on staff?
Well, like I always try to say, is all staff at the police departments is always a representative to reach out somebody dedicated to that. Not so often. We have a handful in the North Shore area that we always work with and try to put on these presentations and other activities in town to try to combine our resources and stuff. But quite frankly, due to staffing shortages and whatnot, not all towns do. So it's unfortunate. But
you're saying every police officer can assist you.
Yeah, and the good thing now is because these are the most recent crimes and stuff, a lot of officers are going to this training to see this and to try to not only thwart it, but try to track down those bad guys and how to do that. Because now you have to teach somebody how to be an electronic guru through the internet to try to find out, from the beginning to the end of where these people were from.
Right.
ComEd, gas company, water company, in your 30-plus years, how many times have you heard of them legitimately show up at a house unannounced and truly need access to get indoors?
Never. Now, I'll say with this, there's going to be at times in a big, huge storm, but you're going to see some big trucks outside with some yellow lights going, and you probably already know that your power's out, your telephone's out, and your cable's out.
Right.
Otherwise, they will never just show up unannounced and ask to be in. They, as a true company, don't want to go inside your house either.
So and you don't walk out for them to show you a problem, because 99 out of 100 times that's a scam. You're outside and someone sneaks in and burglary. What's that called?
A ruse burglary. So yes, it's a very common thing. And some of the things you'll never want to do is, one, open the door, right? If they do have some legitimate things, you could always call us to verify, right? And then second, don't ever go outside and leave your door unlocked, because if they have to show you, I'll show you where the power line is that's down. I'll show you where the tree is resting on your cable line that we need to get access to your backyard. Somebody is already walking in as soon as you round the corner with that person and going straight into your valuables and stealing them. And it's less than 5 minutes and they're gone.
Wow.
It's tough. And lastly, never say you're home alone. When you say, well, I can't go outside, I'm home alone, because that starts to create a risk, right? Just say, I can't go outside right now due to the circumstances inside for the rest of the family inside. Can you just call me back another time or send me a letter, and I'll make sure to take care of it.
So that's really important for seniors,
Yes.
because sometimes, or a lot of times, they're alone.
Yeah.
So to really make sure that you let people think you have other people with you.
Correct, and because they're not so used to these scams and whatnot, they always feel like they should, say the truth and always try to help out. They're very enabling, and unfortunately, that's what becomes a victim.
Yeah.
Crazy question, because this is firsthand. I once was at a house of a woman doing a gold and silver buy.
Yeah.
She told me she had a hidden safe in the basement. I quickly said, "You've told me enough. I don't want to hear any more."
Right.
I said, "Who else knows about your hidden safe?" She says, "My best friend." My next question is, do you mind me asking about how old your best friend is?
Oh,
and all of a sudden, she knew where I was going. She's like, "Yeah, my best friend is about my age, about 70,
right.
And maybe I should let someone else know where my hidden safe is."
Sure.
So let's talk about seniors and the difficult, because no one wants to talk about dying,
right,
or having, God forbid, a car accident at any age, or breaking and hurting a hip. But from a law enforcement point of view and things you have witnessed in your 30-plus years, what are some of these things you think people should be having these conversations with for the future? So God forbid, the what ifs.
Right. No, that's a good point. And as we always talk about targeting not only yourself but your home and whatnot, is what I always say is for your sons or daughters, even if they live out of state, is let them know combinations, let them know username and passwords, have that all available to them. So if in fact you have to go to the hospital, if in fact, let's just even say something arises and you're out of town traveling because you worked hard your whole life and now you're starting to travel, is make sure they have access to all that, God forbid, because they're going to be your front line of defense if you cannot handle the situation, to step on in and handle that. One thing I do want to say about safes, though, since we're on this subject, if in fact you have a safe in your house, that hidden safe that we talked about, right? Fantastic. Just make sure you didn't provide a carrying case for the burglars that come into your house when you're not there to just take all your valuables away. If in fact you're going to have a safe, make sure it is secure and then bolted to something, because a lot of times people buy these wonderful, foot by foot safes and they put them downstairs right on a shelf, and the bad guys or girls come on in and they just grab it and they carry it away like a suitcase. So make sure if you're going to do it, make sure you have someone help you and secure that safe inside the house.
Basically, from how I like to say it, if you're going to have the safe in your basement, screw it to the foundation floor.
Sure.
Because it's not going anywhere.
But, as you saw at one entity that they asked us to do a security assessment on their building, and they had a safe, and it was a small safe, to put there on the floor. We don't want their employees going down on the floor and having to open it, even if it's bolted to that big, huge table. I highly doubt people come in with all these tools to spend 45 minutes unbolting a safe. Right. Or trying to carry out the table with it at the same time. Make it difficult. They don't want to spend time doing that.
Right. Can we circle back to passwords?
Yes.
Passwords and personal information online.
Right.
And, so many times you're told to change your password or don't have the same passwords, or after a certain amount of time, change it. What is the actual thing that we should be doing?
Well, one is don't keep a simple password, because believe it or not, if in fact you keep your birthday, right? If in fact you keep your daughter's or your son's name and stuff like that, the cold hard truth in all this is, and this is what we always start off by saying in every one of our presentations, your information is already out there. Whether you think it isn't and you've been safe your whole life, your information is out there because you've had to go to the doctor. You have banking information, you have all that. And believe it or not, people have had breaches at their banking institutions or doctor's offices and whatnot, and that information is already out there. So if you're going to do a password, there are a lot of free programs that are out there that provide very hard passwords and will update it. So technically you don't even need to. I always encourage people to, write it or put it on a spreadsheet for their sons and daughters and stuff and keep it available to them. But there's programs out there that will generate that for you and make it very, very hard. One simple one that everybody uses is Google, right? Unless you have that one Apple computer that you can still use Google with, people use Google on their computer every single day. And as long as you have a Gmail email, an account, is Google has that AI right there for you that will generate a password and keep it for you at any time. As long as it knows what you're using it for, it will always, every time you go to that site, it'll say, do you want to use this password? There are a lot of third-party entities, I wrote some down, that do provide some resources. But some of them you might have to pay for, some you might not, such as 1Password or NordPass, that provide really good products just as the same. And it's, you load it onto your computer and they're already building their passwords for you. And always remember, anything happens to your computer, they're all safe because they're kept online in a very secure. Then people say, well, I don't want another person doing that. That's their job. But Google, I use Google myself. Not only am I, somebody that preaches it, I am a customer too.
Okay.
And it generates all my passwords and remembers every one of them. And I've yet to be hacked by somebody that got into my Google passwords and used it against me.
Great.
Going on vacation, a senior that travels a lot.
Yeah.
God forbid the wallet gets lost. You have a good suggestion on how to back up that information, or a driver's license or passport, so you're in another state. You don't have access to your house anymore.
Yeah, so if in fact you're on vacation and something happens to all your information, make sure you could, on your phone, we're glued to our phones. Rarely do you leave your phone behind because it's at our hip anyway. Is take pictures of all that. Take pictures of your driver's license. Take pictures of the 1-800 number on the back of your credit card, because one, they can instantly stop it and get it next day air to wherever you're at to you. And as well as, provide some money to you wherever country you can, pick it up at. So make sure that the specific things that are there, your debit card if you have one of those, your IDs, your passport, have all those pictures on your phone. I do that with me. I do that with my my medical and my dental card, because some entity, especially if I'm in the ER and I might not have it with me, it's on my phone.
Yeah.
And our phones don't go anywhere without us. So just make sure you always have the ready, and then that way you're going to be able to provide that to anybody that might ask for it.
Okay, you touched a little bit about AI.
Yes.
And we talked about, and I don't know how,
That's probably a whole conversation
It is.
in itself, but just quickly, AI and scammed voices and seniors that may get that phone call, oh, this is your daughter, and,
Sure. Right. AI is out there. It is our future, whether we like it or not. But what we always say is what we've been kind of reiterating, not only in this conversation, but our presentations that we do, is if you get that phone call, and if in fact it does sound like your daughter, your grandchildren, and they're going to tell you that something has happened, and they're going to need money, right? And you feel like, hey, I'm that grandparent or parent, I need to help them. Just take a moment and take a breath, because you're not sure, and that guy that was on this podcast told you to, or in the presentation, is say, hang up and call your true daughter, your son, or your grandchildren, and say, was that just you that called me? And I guarantee if they're truly in help, they're going to answer that phone call. But the AI is very good at what it does. And the urgency that they put into the voice that say, I need help right now, please provide me money, and this is where you're going to go with gift cards and whatnot, right, is it could be quite convincing, because, and then people always say, well, how did you get that? Because people are always on, the younger generation, the sons and daughters, the grandchildren, are always on TikTok. They're always on YouTube. They're doing something out there to the fact is they can get that voice and they can recreate it. Right. And that's tough. That is tough, because if something happened to my son or daughter, I'd be mortified if I didn't help them. Right. But I always have to know, preach what, do what you preach, right, is take that moment and then call them back to make sure, as such you would with a banking institution if you get that phone call, right? Right. The bank calls and says, there's something wrong with your account. I'll call you right back. I want to make sure I have everything. And then just call your real banking institution back, because if it is true, somebody will say, oh, I'm glad you called us back. This is how we can help you. But it's that double check, right? Okay. As we always talk about our dual authentication, right? That is our true dual authentication, with actually calling that son or daughter back to making sure that there is truly an issue.
So you just talked about the bank calling.
Yeah.
To call them back, a different phone number. Yeah. Because what are spoof numbers? And you talked about banking and...
Right. So we have our banking numbers, we have our credit card numbers, and here is that intelligence that's out there. Here is what, unfortunately, that the World Wide Web can provide to these bad guys and girls, is that when they call, the caller ID on your phone might actually say, this is your bank, this is your utility company, this is your credit card. And you go, uh-oh, there must be a problem, right? Right. And then you talk to them. The easiest way to handle that is just say, you know what, I understand there's an issue. Let me hang up, and I'll make sure I call my local entity, or let me call the real number. Any legitimate person will tell you, please do. And here's your reference number. Because if it's illegitimate, they say, no, please hang on the phone. We can fix this right here now. And there's that urgency again, right? Another red flag. Boom. Wait, this person doesn't want me to hang up. So that's when we always encourage everybody, even if it says on that caller ID, because thus the term spoof number. And you could go to several websites out there, us ourselves, and go into the website, say, I would like to be called this, and they would generate a number for you. And you could go right through what we call a voice over IP. And call somebody right through your computer and have it appear like you're Ronald McDonald from McDonald's, you know? And that's tough. That's tough on the elderly, because they actually think it's them.
Text or emails. I've got them from UPS.
Yes.
I've got them from FedEx.
Yes.
I've got them from the post office. Yep. They definitely want me to always click. I'm always afraid of those texts and emails. Sure. I know one I got recently was DHL. It was legitimate, but I didn't believe it until, the truck literally showed up a day or 2 days later.
Right.
So let's talk about that. How do we know if they're legitimate? I guess it's the same question, but a different.
You hover over the...
Right, you can hover, but it's tough on a text, right? There's no hovering over a text.
But you can kind of see who the sender
You can,
is.
and we talked about the large amount of characters, right? It isn't, www.dhs.com. Here's your reference number. It is a probably 50-character, line that they tell you to hit on, and none of it makes sense. There is
Right.
no true domain in that. It is a lot of numbers and letters that doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. And there's that, we keep talking about dual authentication, right?
Right.
Call the entity and say,
Yeah.
hey, listen, I just got a text from them.
Right.
What I believe is you guys, can you authenticate this?
Right.
Some of them are legitimate, but 9 times out of 10, it is not. And so what are they trying to achieve? Well, if you click on it, now all of a sudden you'll get a phone call. Or sometimes as a computer, as soon as you click on it, they now have control of your computer, and they're already going through files without you even knowing to try to find financial information, and that's tough.
Wow.
Scary times.
Scary.
It very much is.
I feel like we need to have you back and go in depth more.
Always.
Because things are constantly evolving.
They're constantly evolving, and what are the big thing is what are the latest scams?
Right.
We talked about ruse burglaries, and sometimes they happen and sometimes they're not. Right now, the hot thing right now is these phone, email, and text scams, and then of course the grandparent scam that goes on right now.
Right.
And obviously, we absolutely love the Northbrook Police Department coming out, and as we always say, target hardening everybody. If I can get everybody, so educated about this, I mean, gosh, what a utopia that we could live in, to where nobody's being victimized anymore.
Right.
The unfortunate fact is, it's always out there, and sometimes these bad guys and girls are very, very smart, and they'll just evolve to the next thing.
Well, Richard, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming out today. I
Thank
hope
you.
we can have you back again.
Of course, any day.
And we will put your contact information
Please.
on our show notes. And please tune in next week for another episode of
Help,
Nobody Told Me.